Welcome to Spotlight. I'm your host, Fitzroy Prendergast. In this week's program, we'll be featuring the Managing Director and Chairman of the Worthy Park Estates, Mr. Peter McConnell.
We've journeyed into the heart of St. Catherine and we've found Mr. Peter McConnell. He is the Managing Director and Chairman of the Worthy Park Estates. Congratulations to you, sir, and welcome to Spotlight.
Thank you.
Now, tell us firstly, how did you get involved in the business, the old business of sugarcane production? How did it all start for Mr. Peter McConnell?
Well, when I came back when I completed schooling, first job I got was working with Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce in Kingston, and started life there as a teller. And after a year or so, I moved up to assistant accountant, and I was the first drive-in teller in Jamaica at Halfway Tree Branch. And my uncles, my family, owned Worthy Park, and after working at the bank for about 2 years, they asked me if I'd come and join the family business, which I did. And I moved out here in 1963, and I've been here ever since. It's interesting that I ended up being a director for Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce, became First Caribbean Jamaica Limited, and I ended up being a director of that company. So, as I told them at First Caribbean, they can use this as an example of upward mobility, where at the bank I went from being a teller to a director. So that's just a little anecdote of my start in life. Yeah.
So tell us, you say after you left school, you worked about 2 years as a teller
At the bank, yeah.
Where did you attend school, and a little bit about that early upbringing?
Oh, well, I went to boarding school at the age of 5 years old, a school called Hillcrest in Brownstown. And then from there I went to the Carteret. And from the Carteret I went to Monroe. And from Monroe I went to school in England. And from there I went to university in Canada, and then came back to Jamaica.
Did you want to get involved initially in just farming, sugar business? When you left school and you had all your qualifications, was this what you were thinking of getting involved in?
I wouldn't say I'd planned it that way, but the opportunity arose. I was offered a position, and it was no, nowadays in terms of money, it was no big amount of money, but when you work on an estate, you get free housing, which is a big plus, and the salary that I was offered was more than what I was getting in Kingston. I thought, well, why not give it a try? And I come from, my father was a farmer, so I come from a farming background. So it worked out. I enjoyed it, and so that's why I'm still here after 50 years, I guess.
Wonderful. Now tell us a little bit about, you said it was a family business. Who are some of the other members of the family that was a part of this, massive estate?
Well, the family goes back to 1918, when my grandfather bought Worthy Park in 1918. And in those days, Worthy Park made about 120 tons of sugar in 6 months. Today, we make nearly 200 tons of sugar per day. So it was grown over the years, slowly, but it's been constant growth. And my grandfather's 3 sons all worked here at Worthy Park. And the pictures are on the wall up there, the middle, that one row up from the bottom. Those are the 3. That's the old man, grandpa at the top, and then those 3 are his 3 sons. And the rest of them were people that have worked here over the time. So, and then after that generation moved off, my cousin Robert Clark, who is son of one of the brothers, and he's the co-managing director and in charge of the factory here. And then there is Gordon Clark, who is a grandson of one of the brothers, and he is in charge of the distillery and our new venture, which is into the rum business.
Wonderful. Now, we want to look a little bit at you came here almost 50 years ago, right? Now, how has this, give the viewers a mind picture of the transformation of this massive complex to what it is today?
I'm not sure I understand the question. Come on.
All right. So you've been here for over 50 years.
Yeah.
Now, we want to get an idea of, how have you seen this plant develop in terms of its,
Well, when I first came here, we were a multifaceted farm in that we had 3,000 head of cattle, we had 1,000 acres of citrus, and the rest of the land was in cane. Over the years, the cattle became unprofitable, so we took out the cattle lands and we planted cane on them, and later on the citrus came down with the disease and became unprofitable, so we pushed out the citrus and planted cane, and now basically we are just on one crop, and that is cane. And our production in cane from Wortley Park has more than doubled in the last 15 to 20 years. And unfortunately, as fast as we expand, our farmers who we buy cane from, and there are about 2,000 of them, their production has been going down. So our actual production of sugar has been pretty static, in spite of the fact that Wortley Park is producing more than double what we used to produce. We're just really taking up the slack of the small farmers going out. Now there's been a big improvement in the price of sugar, and as a result of this, there's a new enthusiasm on the small farmers' part to go back into cane, which is good, because we are in we have a 4-year period here of locked into good prices, and it's one of the few agricultural crops right now that you can say has good prices, and hopefully they will take advantage of this situation.
Just give me a break. Your mic has dropped, fella.
In spite of us doubling our production, as I'm telling you, that the actual production of cane has doubled, but sugar is pretty well static. And that is why we have been after the government to try and let us get more lands to plant more sugar, because you can't stay static in this world. If you don't keep your production going up, 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 inflation will take you over. And unfortunately, we're not making much headway with that. But we continue to try to see what we can do with the powers that be to get more land to plant cane.
No, it is interesting that you're saying this to me, because as a journalist, as a career journalist, I've been following the industry quite well, and I know that recently the last government was in power. They divested a number of their estates, their sugar estates. Now, it seemed to me that part of the reason why the government decided to sell these estates was that they were not profitable, right? Now, why is it that all these factories, in your opinion, why is it that all these factories had to be sold to Chinese, but yours is still operational, still making money?
Well, I'm sure you're aware that I don't have anything that the government runs that is run efficiently. I mean, some things they run sure make profit, but and the majority of things, it's an attitude of, it's a free all, it don't care, nobody don't put out to really make sure things work right. And I think the success of Wortley Park over the years has been the fact that those who own it live on it. We all live here, and we're here 24/7. So we live on it and we run it, and that's a great part of the success and the reason why we have been able to maintain profitability all these years.
Why is that concept so very important? Why is it that the fact that you work here, live here, and why is that so important to the success of this?
Well, I think basically, we set an example to the whole workforce that there's a presence, that the owners are here with us working. We're up together at 6 o'clock in the morning. We've gone to work at 7 with everybody. We talk to everybody every day. We see everybody every day. We are right here. It's just like part of a big family. And for us, it has worked.
Now, wow, this is so interesting. Now, having seen the success so far, you have done very well in the sugar business. When you look at where you are now, you're suggesting that you want more land. How far advanced are there any discussions that you have that you see fruit being born, that there may be some possibility of additional lands for Worthy Park to actually increase capacity? Is there that possibility?
I wish I could tell you that I could see the light at the end of the tunnel. In fact, but unfortunately, I can't. We do lease Caymanas from the UDC, but I'm sure as a journalist you read nearly every day in the paper about some new development that they want to put at Caymanas, and I'm dead against it. For the simple reason that Caymanas is some of the finest agricultural land in Jamaica. It is producing stuff that is earning foreign exchange. Why would you want to take land that is productive out of production? When if you just drive 5 minutes, not even 5 minutes down the highway from Caymanas, there's all kind of idle land sitting down there. All these developments that you want to do, go and do it on land which is producing nothing. Why are you going to trouble something that is producing? It's not right for Jamaica. It just doesn't make sense. And I really can't say that I'm getting any headway with the powers that be to see the light of day. But it is wrong. What they're doing is wrong for Jamaica and for the future of Jamaica and its children.
The mic keeps dropping. Stop to the Caymanas issue. That's fine. Yeah. We go back to the Caymanas issue. The issue of UDC trying to use the land for housing instead of farming. Is it that the UDC is not necessarily understanding the value of the industry to Jamaica, or is it just a quick fix, earning way of thinking to say, okay, I can build 500 homes, I can make $10 billion or whatever, and that's that. Is it that it's a short-term mentality that that is being exposed here in this situation?
Well, I don't know if it is that. But when it comes to building houses, they flatter the land, the cheaper it is to build. So if you ask me, houses should be being built going to the east of Kingston, because you have land there that is hillside land, has no agricultural value. But once you take land out of agriculture and put concrete on it, that's the end of that land in terms of producing food to feed this nation. And there are health is another example. Now the environment will tell you that we have what you call the big lizard, iguanas out there. They have to be protected. Well, you have to decide which one is more important, the iguanas or the human being, right? And that's another area where you could be developing in housing, and leave the agricultural land alone. That land has absolutely no use for agriculture, and it's fairly flat. So, when you ask me the question, it's not only for housing, What the UDC are talking about now is a logistics center, which is something to do, I believe, with tying up with the Chinese and the port. Well, there's land, the south side of the highway. There's land there that Caymanas owns that has no agricultural value because they can't get water to it. They could use that. They have picked the land that they have picked to put this logistics center is 200 acres in the middle of the prime area of Caymanas, which is presently in Cain. So it just doesn't add up. Why don't they go across the road? Why don't they go down the road? Well, if you go down the road, they might say to you, well, we don't own the land. I don't know whether they own it or not. I suspect they do, though. But, It needs to be thoroughly thrashed out, because it is, as I said before, it is not the right direction for Jamaica to be going in.
Of export, 4 years of good pricing, as you said, seems to be happening in this industry. How's export going?
Right, as far as we have locked in, pre-sold our sugar for 4 years. 1 year is gone, we have 3 more years at good prices.
Overseas?
Overseas, with Tate and Lyle. And so that's in place, and that's a done deal. That's guaranteed, in other words. So for the next 3 years, 1 year's gone, 3 more years, we are in good shape. What happens after that, I'm not sure, but I hopefully things will continue to be good.
When you look at the world market, because you're in the business, you must follow the business and so on, the prospects of this crop, is it bright? Is it, iffy? When you analyze the market as a businessman, what do you think?
You're talking about the Jamaican sugar industry, analyzing that?
Both the Jamaican and the overseas market.
I'll tell you this much. We have locked into a price which is, I think, 42 US cents per pound of sugar for export for this coming crop we're in now. The world market price is down to about 19. So we are lucky that we're locked in. We're locked in at over double the price of the present world market price. Now, as far as what we're going to produce this year is concerned, we did have Hurricane Sandy, which was a setback. It blew down, particularly up here, blew down our cane, and we're not getting as great a tonnage as we would have got without the hurricane. But we're into a very, very serious drought. I don't think people really realize. In my 50 years here, we average here 1 inch of rain per week, which is what sugarcane needs to grow without irrigation. And in the last 3 months, we haven't had 2 inches of rain. So it's very severe. I've never seen a drought this bad at this time. And we're now just going into the dry weather period. February traditionally is your driest month of the year. So it's not looking good. And as a result of that, I think the crop is not going to be as good as it would have been. But this is farming. This is what happens when you farm. These acts of God are beyond our control,
What about your well system? Or do you have an extensive?
No, we don't. We only rely on rainfall here for growing cane. We do have wells for the distillery and for the factory, but not for irrigation. There's not sufficient water here for that. And we don't need it really. A normal year, you get enough rainfall.
Okay, so you're concerned about the drought that is affecting,
the island, the whole island.
The island. You're locked into 2 excellent deals based on what you're telling me.
3 years.
3 years, mm-hmm. And that will keep you steady for that. Now, it's important to allow the viewers to understand that you've also shifted business somewhat into rum production, and that's very interesting. Now, first of all, tell us about Rum Bar, the rum production side of the business, and how is it going?
Well, let me tell you, when the sugar price was not so good, and there was a lot of talk about you can take molasses, which is a byproduct of making sugar, which is what you make rum from, and you can also do ethanol with it. And so when the price of sugar was not so good, we were selling our molasses to other distillers who were taking it and making rum. And we thought, why don't we value add ourselves. Let's put up our own distillery and make our own rum and come out with a branded rum. So it's about 7 years ago we built the distillery. We actually didn't go to market until we're in our 4th year now. And we did extremely well with the rum bar rum. It has gone down really well. Sales we're doing extremely well. Then we got taxed 260% in May last year on our rum. One shot, 260%. So that today, when we sell a case of rum, let's say for $12,000, 60% of that goes to the government in taxes. It's taxed beyond its means. And it's almost, I could say, taxed nearly almost beyond the pocket of the consumers.
Mr. McConnell, I'm very interested in the whole aspect of this rum taxation because it obviously will affect profitability. I gather that part of the issue now is that rum is taxed based on a percentage of alcohol. Tell us about that and how does it impact on the amount you pay to the government?
Well, in May of this year, the government decided to tax alcohol based on its alcoholic content. So what this did to our main product, and Jamaica's main product, which is white overproof rum. More white overproof rum is drunk in Jamaica than any other liquor. And is that, in our case, it moved our taxes up by 260%. Wow. And what this has done is to put pressure on the consumer, because it is costing more now, a lot more, to have a drink. And as a result of this, the sales are declining. And it's not only Worley Park sale, other rum people, their sales are declining as well. And it's almost like that you are pressured, that the government are pressured by other sectors of the liquor industry to tax rum. When you know, rum is 100% produced and made in Jamaica. Everything that goes into rum production is Jamaican. And you cannot say the same for other alcoholic beverages, which are now at an advantage to rum in the marketplace.
Are you of the opinion that companies with a significant foreign influence are impacting the government's decision in the rum market?
I would have to say yes, because that is the reality. The reality is that you're taxing alcohol based on the alcohol content. Well, before it was not taxed that way. It was taxed on, you paid a tax based on the value of the rum. Now it's changed, and it's been a significant and dramatic change, which has had a very adverse effect on the sales of rum.
Does Worthy Park, I know that, for instance, some of the sugar industries that were taken over by the Chinese and so on, they've got incentives, breaks, and so on. Does Worthy Park benefit from that sort of incentive by the government?
I'm glad you asked that question, because it is one of the burning issues that we have, where the factories that were divested, that's from Monimus, Bernard Lodge, Long Pond, and Duckenfield. They have all been given concessions in terms of taxes, in terms of import duties, on if they want to bring in tractors, trucks, whatever, there is no GCT, there is no duty, they just bring them in. Worley Park and Appleton are not given those concessions, and we are having to compete in the marketplace with these guys, and we are just not on a level playing field, and it is not right. Just recently I put in an application for 8 vehicles, and you don't buy a tractor to go and joyride in it. You buy a tractor to go and work and give people employment and produce something. And the 8 units that we applied for were all turned down by the government. They wouldn't give us any concession. And it's wrong, and it has to change.
Wow. No, despite all this difficulty, you still remain vibrant, you still remain competitive. What are some of the keys to your success, you would say?
Well, I tell you something, I'm getting old and I'm running out of patience. It is so difficult to do business in this country that it's not any secret or any wonder why this economy is not growing. The government make life too difficult. And people are not coming here to invest money to have headaches. They're coming here to invest money. They want a climate that is conducive and that offers incentives, and then they will come. But I'm telling you, it is very, very difficult to do business in this country.
Is that the biggest challenge you face as a businessman in Jamaica? The bureaucratic red tape in...
Well, that's just one of them. My biggest challenge now is to find land, to produce on, to employ people, to keep my factory viable. Because if I don't get the land, it's only a matter of time before this goes out, you know. And people don't appreciate that if I lose Caymanas and it goes into concrete and I can't find land elsewhere to replace it, the whole viability of Worley Park and the 800 people we employ and the 2,000 farmers that we buy cane from is in jeopardy.
How much land do you need?
I need about, I would say, 1,500 acres of cane.
Wow. And give me a mind picture of how many people would be employed if you get that.
Well, if I get that, I'd probably be able to employ an additional 300 people.
Wow. Interesting. Now, with all that at stake, you're a savvy person. I mean, is there, let's say that there is this land at Caymanas Park, Caymanas, maybe used by UDC for a different purpose. There may be other lands in Jamaica that they may be able to give you, right? How are you positioning yourself to see that, to ensure that you actually get what you want?
Well, first of all, let me tell you, you cannot plant cane and be too far away from your factory. In other words, you can't plant cane in Trelawney or in the plains of Clarendon and send it to Worley Park. It's not profitable. The transport costs don't make it viable. You cannot go if you go more than 30 miles from your source, you have a problem. So you're limited to where the land is within a 30-mile radius of where we are, where the factory is. And so
you have a factory in St. Catherine there?
Huh?
You have a factory?
This is it here. It's right here.
Okay.
Right here. Right here. Hear the noise there? That's the factory. So
that's a challenge.
It's a challenge to find the land within a radius where it's economical to grow the cane to come here.
When you look at all the possibilities, do you see any other option of land available apart from Caymanas?
Well, again, you know, we put in a bid for Innswood when they were divesting, and the powers that be never gave it to us. They thought it better to give it to the foreigners, and the Chinese got it over us. And we were very upset about that, because that is one of the last large blocks of land that is close enough to us to be economical to grow cane and come to this factory. So I don't know, and you know, I don't like to criticize other people, but if you drive along the highway and look at the cane that the Chinese are farming, it doesn't look very good. And in my opinion, they're wasting the land when I could take it and make it far more productive than they are doing. Wow. So I'm continuing to pressure the government to see what can be done to ensure the future of Worley Park, because it, you know, within a 12-mile radius of where we are sitting here now, there's not one other employer. You know. There's nobody for these people to go and work with anybody else. So it's important that they make sure that these deep rural businesses survive for this whole Crofts Hill, Kellits, Ridersville, Point Hill would close down without Worley Park. We are dispersing in this area $15.6 million of money every week just paying farmers for delivering cane here, you know. Now you take that out of this economy and think what would happen to all the shopkeepers and everybody else around the area.
Wow. And I was looking at something and I realized that you have the highest tons of sugar per acre of cane in Jamaica. That's insignificant. I mean, with all what has happened in terms of the transformation, you're still producing at optimum. I mean, barring, you know, despite the challenges. How do you manage to do that?
Well, you know, our figures are comparable with the best producers in the world. And if you just look at, if I could show you, we have a daily report that comes out from the industry showing all the factories what they produce. The island is taking about 11.7 tons of cane to make 1 ton of sugar. Worthy Park is taking 8.6.
Wow.
So for every 100 tons that those other guys grind, they produce 8.6 tons of sugar. Every 100 tons that Worthy Park grinds. We produce 12 tons of sugar.
Wow. Well, what accounts?
So that we are getting more sugar out of the cane than anybody else.
What accounts for that?
Well, it's management. You know, if we burn cane here today, it's cut tomorrow and it goes to the factory tomorrow. Now, some people, they burn cane today, 1 week later the cane hasn't gone to the factory yet. So it deteriorates and it don't get out of it what you ought to get out of it. So there's that. Then you have the whole the climate. We have an advantage here because we are elevated. We are a little cooler, and that helps to give you better conversion. So that is an advantage. But generally speaking, this island used to take 10 tons of cane to make a ton of sugar, average. Today we are at more like 12. Everything has deteriorated, but we have been able to maintain our position and hold our efficiencies for the last, whatever, 30 years, whatever they are.
I'm still impressed by the management, the operation of this factory. Despite the challenges, I know you spoke about them quite significantly, but you were also a nominee for the Observer, the Jamaica Observer award recently. How does that make your team feel here?
Well, I think they're very proud. There's a picture up there of one of the award things from the Observer. No, the staff and everybody have been very supportive, and you know, a lot is due to them. You know, you can be I don't care how good a manager you are, if you don't have the support of your people below you, you're a leader, and if you can't lead the team, you know, it's not going to work. And so we have a very, very, very strong team of employees here, and most of them have been here for years and years and years, and I challenge anybody to show me any better employees than what we have.
I submit to you that this factory has a culture of success. If you have a factory that is over 340 years old, it's difficult to find people who are not committed, because it must mean that you have longevity in terms of the people who are employed here. 340 years means a culture of cultivation of cane in this area. You think that's a significant difference between, you know, one of the reasons why you succeed in what you do?
Well, there are other estates that were growing cane at the same time when Worthy Park first started in 1670, and they have gone by the wayside. So I don't know that it's a culture. I would like to think it had more to do with the people who have owned it over the years and run it, that it has been able to hold its head above water and continue to be successful. And it's a whole, you know, we up here, you see my office, I don't have air conditioning, you know. Anybody can walk up the steps here, see a guy just came up to talk to me, but he saw you, so he's gone back down. The office is wide open. Anybody can come in and ask me anything they want. You don't have to go outside there and ask somebody, can they see me? They can walk up the steps there and come and talk to me. We're an open book.
How do you manage to deal with this massive operation as the leader, the team leader here, and deal with your family? Sometimes it's a tough question to ask business people because sometimes it's a difficult balancing act.
Well, yeah, I'm lucky that I've been married now for, this is my 50th year.
Wow.
And my wife likes it in the country, although she's a Kingston girl. And I brought up all my children here. They started out by going to school in Linstead. There's a school down there that we support. And our children of our staff, we provide a school bus for them. And they go down to the school every day and brought back by the minibus. That's where my children started school. And they all grew up. They're all gone, married now and gone. Unfortunately, I only have daughters, so if I'd had a son, maybe I wouldn't still be here. Passed it on to him and gone. But I only have daughters, and they're all happily married. All living. One is living in England, the other two are living in Jamaica.
Wow. What is the future of Worthy Park? And now when you look back, when you sit back and you analyze it, what would you like to see in the short, medium, long term?
Well, I told it at least twice already. The main thing is we need more land, so that we can secure the throughput of the factory to make it viable, continue to be viable. I see the future as being in the rum business, and we came out with Rum Bar Rum. We subsequently came out with Worthy Gold, and we have now come out with Rum Bar Rum Cream, and we are going to be moving into other alcoholic products. So I would think that if we can hold the base of the sugar and use the byproduct, which is the molasses which we produce, to expand our alcoholic beverage side of the business, that is where the future lies.
You mentioned that you planning on going into other rum products. Tell us about that.
Well, not necessarily rum, other alcoholic products. There are the tonic wines, and there's vodka, there are other things that we're looking at right now, and before long we'll come out with our own brand.
You used to supply Jamaica Brothers in a very close-knit relationship. Explain to me that relationship. Is it still going on? What's it?
Well, unfortunately, we have taken a decision to come out of the broiler production, mainly because all the raw materials, the chickens are provided by Jamaica Broilers. They dictate their turnaround time, and if we can't turn over 7 batches of chickens a year, it's very difficult to make any money. And our cubs now are about 30 years old, and they need serious revamping and rebuilding and replacing. And when we looked at the capital cost involved, we didn't see the return to warrant us continuing in the business. So we have closed it down, and we have re-employed all the people that worked up there. We absorbed them into the sugar side, and we are actually selling the cubs, and they've all been sold. So other people, broilers are buying them for other farmers to, I guess, to purchase them and grow chickens for them.
As you, an elder statesman, has been in the business for 50 years, persons who are coming up, young persons who want to get into farming, what would be your advice to any young person with, maybe a business acumen like yourself, wants to get into business and loves the farming side of the business, possibly sugarcane? What would you say?
Well, one of the biggest problems with the farming and young people is farming obviously is done outside of the corporate area and outside of the bright lights, and so a lot of young people find it dull and boring. My advice to you is to find a good girl who will keep you company at night, because sometimes it can be very lonely in the bush. But it's a wonderful way of life. It's a very healthy way of life. If you love farming, you just love farming. And I would certainly encourage more people to go in. You know, we're getting far more sophisticated now in the machinery, using the harvesters, the type of tractors, and you know, the whole on a sugar estate. There's every single trade you can think of we need. Be it mechanics, be it plumber, be it electrician, be it welder, be it whatever. Everything is used here. We use here, and so there are lots of opportunities. What we need is some more training, because most of the time we end up doing the training ourselves on the job, taking young guys from around this area, bring them in, train them, and they stay with us, and most of them stay forever.
All right, Peter. You know, I enjoyed this interview so much. I wanted to find out from you, what do you do outside of the normal rigors of work? What do you do for pleasure? Tell the viewers about that.
Well, my hobbies are fishing and shooting, both skeet and sporting clay shooting.
I gather that you had an outstanding effort in clay shooting that is noteworthy. Tell us about that.
Well, I think it was 2005 in a competition up at Sligoville. I shot 100 out of 100, which it's the only time it's ever been done in Jamaica. And if you check in with the sporting clay shooters around the world, it's only been done very few times, not many times at all. So it was quite an achievement, but you know, I almost think it was more by accident that it happened than my good shooting.
Are you still involved in the association or something?
Absolutely, yeah. In fact, I'm shooting in a competition this weekend coming, and I'm going off to Florida in 2 weeks' time to shoot in what they call a Seminole Cup up there. A number of Jamaicans are going up for that competition, and I'll be there.
Wow. And lastly, I want to talk to you a little bit about your Senate life. I gather you were involved in the Senate from 1998 to 2002. It's 4 years?
Yes, I was. I must tell you, I enjoyed it, but I found it very taxing in that it took up a lot of time. There is so much material to read and be prepared, and then every Friday you had to go to Senate. And but I enjoyed it, and I you know, most people that go to the Senate go in there with political ambition. Usually they're using it as a stepping stone to go into politics. I regarded my tenure there as giving back something to Jamaica. I really had no political ambition, and I was quite honored, very honored that I'd been asked to do that, and I felt it my duty to give back something to Jamaica.
Naturally, Order of Distinction, another national award. Tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, I guess that was for my contribution to the agricultural sector, and it was also to do with community work that I've done. You know, I've been chairman of the youth camp up here, chairman of the Loidas Vale School, you know, so that that was what it was given for, that and my contribution to agriculture.
Thank you once again.
All right. Okay.
Wow. Fantastic stories, Mr. Peter McConnell. All the very, very best.
Thank you.
All the best. And,
okay.
Certainly, we hope that your negotiations with the government and
we'll see.
bear fruit.
We'll see.
And the next time we speak, you'll have great news for us. Thank you very much.
All right. Good.
All the very best.
Okay.
That's it for Spotlight feature with Mr. Peter McConnell, the chairman and managing director of the Worthy Park Estates.